All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm fasting today, so I'm going to talk a little crazy today, which I do every day anyway. I was listening to Sean Hannity, and he had Mark Simone on. I don't know if Mark Simone is Jewish or French or both. I have no idea. Or neither. Anyway, he's American, just like all of us. Except those who are not American, who might be watching this, because I know some folks who watch aren't American. And we are here on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, a fast day, the longest daytime fast day of the year. If you live in the northern hemisphere, I wonder if there are like rich people who go to Melbourne just for the 3 weeks, just to make Shiva Asar B'Tammuz a little easier, and even Tisha B'Av could theoretically be easier because you sleep a little bit more, Anyway, Mark Simone was saying, the Democrats aren't doing anything that helps anybody. Everything that they're doing is merely symbolic, taking down statues, changing names of streets, etc., etc., etc. So what does that mean? What's the purpose of that? Why are they doing that? It's not empty. You have to understand there are a lot of people on the left who practice ritual magic and other New Age practices. And even though, our father Abraham was the original iconoclast, and we understand what he was doing according to our traditions, according to Midrash, with all that being said, in a certain sense, and a lot of even rabbis have noticed that this taking down of statues is in itself a form of idolatry, which really goes back to kind of what the Kutzker said, that really any mitzvah could be avodah zarah, any good deed, quote unquote, could be idolatrous. And in a certain sense, this obsession with taking down these statues is essentially idolatrous. It's essentially giving them more power than they had. Meaning, on one hand, because when you take down a statue, when you smash an idol, if it's an idol that was worshipped, so then you're smashing an idol. But if it was not worshipped, you're giving it, you're making it an idol. You understand what I'm saying? Meaning, these things had no power until you gave them the power. Meaning, people who feel oppressed by seeing a statue are giving power to that force, to that statue. They're, in a sense, making it into an idol. Because the truth is, I would drive down Monument Avenue in Richmond quite often because it was not too far from my house. And I'd see all the monuments. I'd see all the statues. And I really didn't... The only one that I really thought anything about was Maury, the Pathfinder of the Seas, who I guess also was a Confederate. But because what little I studied about him, that he was a scientist who was influenced by the Bible, I thought that was kind of cool. That he discovered truths of nature that were already revealed truths in Scripture, that were yet unknown in nature until he discovered them. And I think that's a pretty cool thing. I had no idea that he was anything with the Confederacy until recently. I was reading that it was brought up. But that was really my favorite one of the Monument Avenue monuments. And it's interesting because that one is not in the middle of the street. That one's on the side, if I remember correctly. And I don't know that much about him, but I just was curious. Who was this guy? What's his story? And when he saw, because it says in Tehillim, Anoisin B'Yam Derech. I think that's in Tehillim. It might be in Mishlei. I don't remember. It's in the Psalms and Proverbs. I think it's in the Psalms. I think it's in Psalm 144, if I'm not mistaken. But I could be. There's another thing from Anoisin Shua that's in there, so I could be wrong. But I thought that was a cool thing. All the rest really didn't mean anything to me. Not positive or negative. I didn't really care. I thought it was a nice gesture because I knew it was a point of contention for some time, and so they put up Arthur Ashe to kind of measure things out, but they weren't going to take anything down, and now they took a bunch of them down, which is their right. As long as it's not done illegally, as long as it's done by the city in a legal manner, go ahead, take them down. Who cares? It doesn't matter. I don't really care, but I think the people on the left who really care about this stuff care about it because of perhaps some kind of ritual magic, which a lot of that stuff really works when you believe in it. When you give, and there's always arguments, are these discussions of actual spiritual forces, or are they merely Jungian archetypes? And what is a Jungian archetype? A Jungian archetype is something that's real. Alan Moore talks about how art and magic are really the same thing, and how ritual magic has rules, as does ritual religion. And art would be better if it also stuck to the rules that it used to stick to. And there's a tremendous truth in that idea of the spirituality of art, whether you want to use the term ritual magic or not, because that's a loaded term. But the spirituality of art cannot be denied. And so therefore there is a spiritual war that's going on here by attacking these symbols, because symbols are very important in ritual magic. As they are in religion, in other form of religious expressions and spiritual expressions. And so essentially that's what we're dealing with here, changing the names of streets and even cities. And the whole story that's going on now with St. Louis is a rather fascinating one and a nuanced one. And it's a difficult one for me as a Jew, and yet one that I praise those clergy and lay people in the Catholic Church for defending their saint, even though he was not really a friend of ours. And but I don't think he can be held responsible for that. For a major part of that is because Nicholas Donin was a Meshumad, was an apostate Jew, ex-Jew, who stirred the pot and made trouble, as those people do, as the non-Orthodox Jews. And even I would. I hope you're still recording here. I'm going to get harder and harder to figure out. So, just in the perfect place.